It was an extreme of control that I saw in my life and around me while growing up, which eventually made me feel like this is not how I can live the rest of my life. It's a multiple personality disorder of sorts to be a female.
I was just telling Taapsee she missed all the nice things we said about her, as well as the film.
And I was glad that I didn't have to get embarrassed looking at that.
No, but thank you so much for being here, Taapsee.
Thank you, my pleasure.
You know, we were just saying that you kind of epitomize the idea of a fiercely individual, professional, person as an actor and a woman, really carving space on your own terms, and that's amazing. So a salute to you.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I'm here because I believe it's a very curated and selected people gathering, and it's always nice to be amongst people who would really identify or kind of recognize and kind of relate and probably like what you do.
They do. I think that deserves an applause, at least to confirm that you like her work.
Thank you. That's a good start for me. I don't want to keep away people from watching the India-Pakistan match, so I'm feeling extremely villainous right now. So we shall try and make it little entertaining and then probably go back to cheering for India.
Yeah, I wanted to say it's a measure of both Montec and your pull, that both the swearing in, India-Pakistan.
Oh my God, yeah. We're
F1
competing with...
and open, French Opens, So, yeah.
We're competing with some really, really high standard of entertainment of sorts.
Exactly. And being a sports lover, the fact that you're sitting here is a big deal. I was worried that you were watching the match,
Not as I didn't start. I was like, okay, let me just finish this and then we'll start. We'll be there when we are really in middle of some adrenaline rush, I guess.
Yes.
So yeah, after some few minutes.
So Taapsee, let me start with, I was just talking about your background and the fact that you've really wanted to create your own space. It's interesting that your whole journey of resistance and rejection and resilience really began right at home, where you come from a conservative family and it wasn't an easy decision for you to become an actor. And you have a interesting, difficult, curious dynamic with your father, who you've spoken of your relationship as one of mutual compromise, So do share with us what that first encounter with authority was.
It was always, well, I am his daughter, so I guess I get that DNA of trying to manipulate and understand and get my way through. So I kind of understood him pretty early, thankfully, and then I realized the only way to get my way through in this kind of conservative, middle-class Delhi, Punjabi, Sikh family was I give him some, I take some. So the deal was that I'll score well, I'll perform really good academically, and in return, you let me do what I want to do. Be it in terms of participating in extracurricular activities, which was also, at least during my time of schooling, was not looked at as like a must-do. The only thing important was to attend your classes.
You're speaking of my time as it was some generations ago.
With the Gen Z and this, apparently the new Gen Alpha, I've started feeling like an antique already. Because the kind of stuff this new age, the language that they talk and the kind of, the way they look at life, I honestly don't identify with it anymore. So I started calling myself like that time.
Right. So, but anyway, to go back.
Yes, so that was a deal. I'll score, you let me play. I'll score, you let me go to my dance classes or performances. I'll score, you just let me do whatever I would want to do with my time. Of course, I had boundaries, 8 p.m. curfews, cannot go for night stays at friends and all of that. But I majorly got a lot of whatever I wanted to do with this deal. And it extended further when I was modeling, which I hid from him for the longest time. And then when he got to know, it was like, I'll get you the scores in my college. And you just let me do what I want to do. And then he realized that, yes, I'm living up to my word. And it extended eventually to acting. When I got the offers, I told him, just give me this 1 year out of my life. And if I don't perform well, I would love to come back and do my MBA, because that was my actual aim in life. It was not under pressure. At least I didn't know any better, honestly. This was the only way to prove myself relevant in the world, by academically excelling. So I said, okay, I'll come back and do my MBA. Let me just try it once and, we'll come. Otherwise, this is what we're going to do. I have an Infosys job appointment letter also, just to show you that I can if I want to. But let me just try if I really want to try something else with my life. And he let me, because, he got that deal
all the
sorted.
safety nets, yeah.
Yeah, so otherwise I don't think he would have let me. And it would have been a very radical decision to walk out and do something which I'm honestly not sure I would have been able to, because I didn't have any precedents in my family who's done this kind of a thing before. So I don't know, I'm not sure if I would have gotten the confidence to. But as I said, I was probably smart enough to maneuver through and understand I need to give him this to get this.
So has his attitude to you changed now?
Yeah,
that smile says a lot.
He didn't ask me to come back and do MBA, is all I can tell you.
Right. But, you said that you got your DNA from him, but it's interesting when you were describing him somewhere else that you said he's someone who's always concerned about how other people will, what will they say, doesn't believe in spending money on himself or others, keep your head down, etc. So then what's the, that's certainly not who you are.
That's definitely not. I think, well, when I say I got my DNA, it's kind of, the manipulation, how to get my way through. But there are a lot of things that obviously I don't identify with him, and a lot of other people of his generation, is the fact that they all, even till date, in spite of me having arguments with him till date about why do we have to abide or live by what the society says. This is one long-standing argument that we've been having over years, and we still do at a lot of times, and we just agree to disagree. But then, yes, this is still the way he likes to live. For him, whatever the society and people around him validate is right, and whatever people around him feel, oh, this is not correct, or this is a taboo, or this is not how one should live, is a big no for him, regardless of what me or him or our family would like to do. That's secondary compared to how the society would like us to be.
So what then helped shape your psyche? Were you born with the rebellion gene, or did somebody inspire you?
This is a good question which I've been trying to find an answer to, which is strange, because I did not have anyone in my family who's got any rebellious streak of any sort before me. None of my cousins, none of my aunts, uncles, anybody. In fact, I was constantly given lectures while growing up that I should be like that cousin and that cousin and that. So I had all the examples in terms of how I should be, but never like, oh, those people were never told to be like me. So there were so many times that I was told, okay, your that cousin scored this much, so she's so nice. So I ended up scoring more than her. But then, like, no, her behavior is so obedient. She's always like listening and, being such an obedient child. Well, obviously, we were mostly girls in the family. We didn't really have an option to see how it would have been if there was a boy. So all these times I was told, and today I do have the last laugh when I tell my parents, and my mother hates it when I
rub it in.
Yeah, that, you were the one who told me, be like her, be like her. Do you really want me to be like her now? But yes, this has been, strangely, I don't know, maybe because when you push someone to the wall so much, I guess, you do come out with something that is unexpected, that was hidden inside you. I love this dialogue that was there in a film, किसी को इतना भी मत डराओ कि डर ही खत्म हो जाए. So I guess, that way, I have kind of lived by this, where I've been pushed to the wall to an extent where I said, okay, now I've had it enough. Now I will work, there's something in me that tells me this is what makes me happy, I'm going to follow it. I guess it was an extreme of control that I saw in my life and around me while growing up, which eventually made me feel like this is not how I can live the rest of my life. I need to take control of my life in my hand, because I only have one and I have limited years, and I cannot continue living basis what others like, because the kind of life I saw a lot of people living around me was not very exciting, honestly. It didn't look like that I would want to have that kind of life
You were
in the coming
literally the
years.
Haseen Dilruba actor, character.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, probably that's the reason I attract these kind of characters also, who kind of break the mold in a way. I still don't have an answer. My younger siblings, though, they are very glad I kind of broke a lot of these rules so that it was an easy crack and a way through for them to follow. But I really didn't have any precedence of sort when I started rebelling in my family.
No, I think it's amazing, because this, it's hard to understand. Just it's easier possibly to take on the world than to take on your family,
Oh, yeah. I think that becomes easier when you know you can take on your family, probably taking on to the world, it becomes
Strangers
easier, yeah.
But you have lived it, and again, the cinema industry in some ways also had a kind of mold of how women actors should be, what stars can be, what are the kind of roles they play. Now, it's fascinating that the first, sharing that with the audience, that your first break in Bollywood, your first breaks were actually in Tamil and Telugu cinema, and I'd like to come back to that and whether there was any difference. But Bollywood is where the majority of your work is. And you got an offer to work with Akshay Kumar as his leading romantic interest. Yeah. And you turned that down to take a 7-minute cameo role as an undercover agent, with some splendid martial arts. That's a really courageous decision. What drove that? What was your voice telling you to do?
I had seen that the conventional path was not working for me, be it during South industry days or when I began my career. With Chashme Badur, it was a commercial hit. But then wherever I went, I realized that this commercial mainstream heroine, there are so many other girls who are actually in queue for that, who are probably better looking, more glamorous, and probably are very comfortable and good at doing these parts. Whereas it looked like it wasn't probably my calling because A, the queue was too long and I was way far behind. And or the other option was to make my mark felt when people least expect it, which cannot happen when probably you are in that long queue of mainstream heroines. This was the kind of path not many people were choosing. And I thought that probably this is what is going to get me the attention when I do something that's least expected out of an actress who's debuted with a classic, commercial, mainstream Hindi film. So that was one of the reasons for me. And I had seen that these conventional paths, the roles, were not really working for me. So I thought, okay, might as well take the plunge right now, because after you establish yourself in mainstream, probably the expectations are so high that you cannot take this risk at that time. I thought right now it's the beginning, probably I can take the risk of trying something that I feel might get me the attention.
I wanted to share with you, this is a really unique description that anyone can give of themselves. She said, I'm not a buffet, I'm a specialty restaurant. So
that's for my love for food. Right. But that's true.
You don't look like you love food at all. I look like I love food.
I work my ass off, sorry for the language. in gym, I do work out a lot because I'm from Delhi, I belong to a Punjabi family. It goes hand in hand. I cannot live without food, and a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, we are going to publish that, your entire memorandum of things to do so that you can eat aloo ka paratha for breakfast. And,
yeah. And chole bhature, and I only have that in Delhi. I don't eat chole bhature anywhere outside because the calories should be worth it.
All right. So, there's been this whole debate around outsiders and the more entitled families within Bollywood. You've now, again, interestingly, called your production house Outsider Productions, so you've really embraced your outsider self. In what ways did it actually help you to be an outsider? And secondly, what was that, give us some anecdotes, texture of what that really means in this industry, because there are also a lot of new directors, new actors, people who do break in. So is this a kind of overblown argument and debate that goes on, or is it something which is very acute? And why did you call your production house Outsider?
Well, I do say the view is the best from the outside, and it definitely was for someone like me. I like to see the glass half full, so let's start with the positives first. Where I came from gave me a direct relatability quotient with my audience. So when I perform someone who's presenting a hero, like representing the hero that my audience can see themselves in when they watch me, it becomes easy because I have lived that life. When I perform, there are a lot of things that can possibly look more natural than a lot of others because probably I've been through most of these experiences firsthand. So that is courtesy being outsider. The courtesy going through the life of a middle class family, that I really wear it as a badge of honor. And that kind of makes me feel like my instant connect with the audience was because of that. So that's why I owe a lot to being the outsider. Now, I was never under the dilemma or confusion that it's going to be easy and fair. I don't think anybody sitting out there in whichever industry you belong to can say very proudly, oh, everything is fair and square in our industry. Not yours, not mine. It's not fair anywhere. So I knew that this is not going to be easy. It's going to be unfair at a lot of times, and it will continue to be. It was unfair back when I started. It is still unfair in a lot of ways, but I'm not going to act as if I'm shocked. How can it be? Because I always knew I'm getting into an industry which has certain unsaid rules of this sort, that my access is difficult, and it will always be in comparison to the ones who've been born and brought up amongst people who've been in the industry. So I kind of accepted that as the rule of the game and then ventured into it. And when I achieved whatever little more, whatever I got from this industry and the audience, I realized that being an outsider is being looked upon as something which is a step down, you know, like an inferiority complex of sorts. You know, everything, oh, because we are outsider, we can't. Because you're an outsider, you will not. So I wanted to see it as the glass half full. I realized I feel proud of the fact where I come from. Yes, it's been difficult, but there are a lot of things that I get as an edge as well, being an outsider. So why don't I own it up even more proudly and call my production house, which marked 10 years of me being in the film industry, as Outsiders Films, because I wanted people to look at the word outsiders in positive light and stop looking at it like a bichara outsider. So that was one big reason for me to do that. And yes, it is difficult. It will always be. I will always have less access than a lot of people. I've been replaced in films courtesy phone calls by other people. I still don't get equal footage even in media because they would like to see an actor's child who hasn't even given a single shot in his or her life splashed over media, over my images. Yes, that's going to happen. The curiosity of their lives is far more than mine. That is going to happen. I kind of have accepted it, and I'm not going to be in a delusion of this one fine day it will become equal. It will not. But I will still thrive and survive and enjoy what I'm doing without trying to compare myself to their lives. Because it's, see, I always give this example, and I've given it in a couple of interviews. You always start staggered in a race. So you always start staggered because you want to complete the same distance, right? Now, if you're not completing the same distance and you're still starting staggered, if you're just running a straight line with staggered start points, it's unfair. So I'm not going to compete with someone who's starting ahead of me, who's got more resources, who's got more access, and then call myself number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I refuse to do that. So I'm not going to consider myself a part of that race. I am running a separate race, no matter how cliche that line sounds, but I'm really trying hard. It gets difficult few days. It sometimes feels nice, sometimes not so nice, but I still have to come back to running my own race where I'm not going to compete with people who started way ahead from me when they started with the resources and the access they had. So I have to kind of make peace with it. Thank you. Thank you so much. See, that feels like I think I did something right.
Right. So, you know, in this fierce pursuit of being yourself, it's also interesting that you haven't sort of softened yourself into great acceptability. You speak your mind, you know, sort of you are, I would say, courageously being yourself. But has that presented dilemmas? Has there been times when, say, you wanted to wear a kind of soft glove, make yourself very malleable? You know, is there any anecdote where you had a dilemma, which will give us an insight into?
I don't know if I have any anecdote, but there's been a constant discussion between me and my PR team, to me and my management team, that I'm not your conventional, I'm just using a random term, don't hold it against me, I call it Lajvanti. I mean, I don't know how to use and explain, you guys understood probably. I'm not your conventional Lajvanti, so I'm not sure if this is the reason why I'm not getting the typical mainstream, big scale heroine stuff, or the kind of attention the media would like to give and call them the A-lister or the top actress of different, the biggest heroine or whatever, whatever. I keep asking, should I start behaving like that? Or, who just smiles at everything and who's just like bending down for everything, and or who's just acting very delicate and fragile? Because that's going to take way more effort out of me in terms of performance than I've put up in any of my films. So this is what I keep asking, and my PR and my management teams are pretty, they're pretty nice and honest to tell me that please don't do that, otherwise you'll become a clone of 50 other girls who are there doing the same thing. I said, but this is the reason why people think I'm difficult. And this is an honest confession. People think I'm difficult. I'm, in terms of difficult to deal with, because I think I have an opinion, or I have a clarity of thought as to what I want to do or what I don't want to do, what I like, what I don't like. And it's not like I don't entertain a discussion. Like, if I can live under the same roof with my father, who I agree to disagree with till date, I think I'm pretty good with, living or contacting or talking to people who don't agree to my opinions. But I guess that's not okay in an industry where the term heroine is used for mostly the characters which are more submissive and dependent on the hero. So when I tried to make my way as the hero of my films, it just came across like till date I've been told that no, we can't give this film to Taapsee because this character, if we give it to Taapsee, people will feel like, this is someone who will do something in the end, or, will have the agency of control. And this character doesn't have that, so let's just not go to her. Or, she doesn't come across that conventional, vulnerable, soft actress or heroine that we would want for this role next to the hero. There's so many times I've been told, no, this hero doesn't want you. So I don't understand the reason why, because I've not had affairs with anyone, who they'll have like a bad blood of sorts with. But so I don't understand. So maybe it's because, for whatever reasons, I did have this discussion multiple times with my teams that should I behave a certain way, or, be like this or not. But it's tough. So I said, okay, I need to get satisfied with the niche that I have made for myself, the image that I have made for myself. Yes, I'll not get the biggest of big films every year. I'll not have people investing, 50, 60 crores in my film. But yes, at least I'll have a small audience who will come into theaters or watch my films believing that if I've done it, there must be some substance to it. And I think I need to make peace with it. So I'm kind of doing that.
Well, you've done a wonderful range of films, and I just watched Haseen Dilruba last night with my family, and it was very riveting, as masaledar as it was at the end.
We have a part 2 coming up in August soon, so yeah.
Yeah, so that's amazing. But when you were saying you haven't had, but you've also actually had the opportunity to act opposite Shah Rukh Khan,
Yes.
which is as big as it gets. Also with Amitabh, twice. And particularly with Amitabh Bachchan in Badla, it was almost like a two-person film, locked into a room and very intense, very equal footing, not a romantic interest.
Yeah.
You were a plot mover in that. So, do you think that maybe actually the world is already at your feet, and how was that experience of working with particularly these two actors?
This is like, from your point of view, it feels like, oh, she's got the best of it. Like getting a role like what I did in Dunki opposite Shah Rukh sir, I think any girl out there will give their right arm for, because it's kind of an equal footing of a role in the film, and then doing the two films I did with Mr. Bachchan, having a film like Pink, which was about women, and then Badla, where it was literally one-on-one between both of us. I have done 4 films with Akshay Kumar. None of them, this 4th one is coming out this September. None of them I'm paired opposite him, and all have been successful commercially. So with these big names that I've worked with, and like I had my own ground in all these films, it does look like it's fancy from the outside, but from the inside, it just devoids me of getting films which will like let me just relax and chill and not worry about the intensity of character I have to portray between action and cut, which I do sometimes feel I need to just relax and feel like this nice, good-looking heroine, so which I rarely get to have. So that's been, that's the compromise. From your side, it looks like this, but from the inside, it looks like, okay, because she's not capable to be that heroine, she's looking like this. But having said that, I think if I see myself 10 years down the line, when I look back at my career, I don't think I would have liked it any other way. Because whenever I see a film of mine, or I say yes or no to a film, I always think about 10 years down the line, will I look back at it and say, oh, I'm proud that I said yes to it, regardless of it being a box office hit or no. So my valuation of doing well or not doing well starts from when I think, okay, 10 years down the line, will I look back at it and be happy about the fact that I did it or no? And so far, courtesy all these films that you mentioned and I mentioned about, I think I'll be really happy and proud of the fact that I sailed through.
So what was the experience of working with Shah Rukh and Amitabh, you know? Now, did they give you the kind of creative equality that you were seeking? What was
100%, 100%, with both of them. The names you mentioned. With Amitabh Bachchan, I think with him, everybody knows this about him. He's so inquisitive to learn even at this age and stage. He doesn't really, in fact, he's more excited when he's around younger people, because we probably are from generation who haven't seen his, you know, the hero 70s, days. Yeah, we've seen his second version when he came back and all of that. So he kind of gets more curious around people of our age group, and I remember the kind of conversations I've had with him across the table sitting during Badla time, since we were just constantly sitting across table. So we were really good, talking about hot chocolate to the cookies that we can have in Glasgow where we were shooting. So like some fun, cool stuff. And even during shoot, it's never like he tells you, okay, maybe if you could do it like this, and maybe if you could. He, in fact, is telling that, okay, you know, अभी थोड़ी उम्र हो गई है, ये मैं 2-3 बारी करूँगा, ठीक है? तो थोड़ा सा, he knows that I don't like to rehearse too much, and he loves to rehearse. I'm more of a spontaneous performer, I feel, where I want to just prepare in my mind and just perform in my first take. He likes to rehearse multiple times. So now, by now, he knows that. So in the second film, when I was doing Badla with him, he constantly would keep saying, ये थोड़ी सी रिहर्सल कर लीजिए मोहतरमा मेरे साथ, मुझे थोड़ा सा, थोड़ी उम्र हो गई है, मुझे लगता है थोड़ा वक्त ठीक करने में. So it used to be so embarrassing. So I was like, sir, अब ऐसे बोलोगे तो I want to just dig one hole and go inside. And like, shit, Amitabh Bachchan can't be saying this to someone like so new as me. And with Shah Rukh sir, it was very different in a way that he is the king of knowing what the audience likes. So he was like, you know, I know already that you're a good actor. So we are not out here in this film going to prove that you're a good actor. Everybody knows that. He was like, I'm just looking forward to seeing how you're going to be in a film that has more commercial tone. So his lookout for me in every shot of mine, even when he was not there, he used to just stand there and make sure that he helps me understand what the commercial tones are, which really helped, because he used to feed in my mind, okay, you have to perform like this, but keep in mind, audience is seeing you in this light right now. So how would you serve or cater to them? So the kind of, the pulse that he knows of the audience at this stage in the film, they're looking at you in this way. So perform serving them. So that I kind of learned from him on set.
So, you know, that was fascinating about Amitabh actually having that dynamic with you. When you were talking about this whole journey of really breaking, pushing boundaries, you know, shifting the needle to accommodate you and who you are, in many of your films, like particularly say Dilruba, which is I've just seen, so I remember it, there's a lot of, very physical sexual scenes, kissing. Again, something that a lot of women actors have hesitated to do. Was that for you a dilemma? Or did that require some talking to yourself in your head, or were you easy with it?
When I started or got these films where I had to be sexually intimate with my co-stars, I think by that time I had kind of understood to differentiate between the art and craft of it and reality. It was quite a few years later, because in South it doesn't happen that way. And in my Hindi films and most of the beginning films, I wasn't in those intimate scenes with any of the co-actors. I think it started probably close around Man Marziyan. And by that time, I had understood how to differentiate the art and the reality. So it became like yet another kind of a craft to how to ace this kind of a scene, because trust me, it's not as romantic as it can possibly look to you guys, because when we are doing it, it's a threesome, foursome situation, because we have a cameraman, a focus puller, a light thermocol, some guy standing with a thermocol very close to you, making sure the light is bouncing correctly. So it's not as romantic and pleasing as it might look on screen. So it wasn't that difficult. It was just like, it became like on and off switch, and a little dark side to all of these scenes, be it these sexually intimate scenes or the scenes which requires me to perform, in a way where I'm losing someone too close, or films like Pink where I have to perform as something as brutal as a rape or a molestation has happened to me. This, for an actor like me, I tried to rip my mind, the layers of my mind off in terms of how it would be if I'm doing this, or how I would perform in real. If it's a kissing or an intimate scene, how will I make it real rather than make it look like just a fancy thing? Or if I'm crying because someone close has died, how will I make it real rather than just a regular crying thing? Doing all these things, one sad part about actors is when it really happens in our real life, you actually have a moment, sometimes you feel like, is it for real or we are still performing? It is actually the dark reality or a dark comedy in our lives. And I remember a few actors, including Mr. Bachchan has spoken about it before, where there are a lot of these scenes where we perform, which are like, we do require a piece of our heart. And when they happen, or probably if they will happen in real, we'll actually be taking a second to feel like, are we still in the act or we are there? That's the give and take we do as actors performing such scenes.
How does your husband respond to this?
No, I think, there are cultural differences in terms of how the Western world looks at these scenes. I think he cannot see me crying is what he says. So it's difficult for him to watch me in films where I'm crying a lot, or my heart breaks, or I lose someone dear. I think only those sequences it's difficult for him to watch, and he gets restless watching them. Not intimate scenes at all. In fact, I'll share something really funny with you. There was a sequence in one of my films where I had to come out of water in a white sari. It didn't happen, by the way, because I refused to do that. It was a white sari, and I had to come out of water, and I said, no, I'm not feeling comfortable doing it. How can you do something like this? It just is like, you're really objectifying and all of that. So I refused to do it, and the director was fine with it. Okay, you're not comfortable, don't do it. So I was sharing this in the lunch break with Matthias, and I told him that, they want me to do something like this, and I mean, how can they ask me? This is just so weird. He's like, yeah, it's just so weird. Why will you come out of water wearing a sari? You should be wearing a bikini. So I decided after this, I'm not going to discuss any such thing with him, because he's going to put weird ideas in my head. So yeah, so that's the man I'm with. So there's no point expecting him to get a little awkward with these things. He's more awkward seeing me cry.
No, actually, I wasn't asking about his reaction to your intimacy on screen. I was reacting to this dissociation that you have with intimacy maybe when you're with him. You know?
Oh, I never thought of asking him. I'll go and ask him. Have I been doing a
Like, are
good
you
job
acting
or
exactly.
I'll check. I'll take my performance scorecard from him after this.
Yes, drop me a message tonight. Yeah, but you know, I wanted to ask you that when you said that you, apart from being an actor, you would have loved to be a sports person, and you've done a spate of sports films, you know. Particularly that you went and stayed with the shooter dadis, who were these amazing, we're talking about women breaking the mold, they truly were. And you went and stayed with them. What did you, tell us a little about that whole experience?
So I stayed with them a little before the film
This,
started.
I don't know how many of you know Sant Ki Aankh, which
Yeah.
was, will you put up your hand, then I won't, okay, so very few know.
Yeah.
These two
Thank you so much
very
for
old
watching.
ladies from a Haryana village.
Yes, they are actually a
Grandmothers.
UP village. It's right at the border of UP and Haryana. So it's got a mix of the cultures from both the states. It's on the outskirts of Delhi, and there are two sister-in-laws, Devrani Jethani, and I stayed with them a few days
But
before.
just so the audience knows, so these were two grandmothers who ended up becoming sharpshooters, and they won many competitions, but they were coming from this UP Haryana village, that milieu, to end up becoming actual winners in shooting competitions. And
Yeah.
then...
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, that was one of the most ambitious decisions of my life at the
Age of-
at that age. Yes, yeah, because I think by everything, whenever I've gotten back something big, it's because I've given a lot to it, and in terms of taking risk as well. Because if you need something that nobody has ever gotten, you need to put in something that nobody has ever done. So I guess by that logic, I thought I need to do something that people will not expect. Someone of my age or the time I took that risk was pretty much like soon after Judwa, I think I did that. So it was a big shocker for everyone. Why would someone do something like this? And for me, it was like, if it's not out of my comfort zone, if I'm just sleepwalking through it, then I'm doing that regular job that I left when I decided not to do my emphasis.
9 to 5.
Yeah, because some people, my father's been doing it, and now he's retired. But some people enjoy that fact that it's just safe and secure. I probably don't. So I need to justify the fact that the reason why I'm here in this industry is because every day
You want
is
to
a
take
new
risks,
day,
yeah.
and it puts you out of your comfort zone, and you kind of enjoy to live on the edge in a lot of ways. So I kind of like that. So when I was doing that film, few days before the shoot, I went and started staying with Chandru Tomar, and in her room, and she was kind enough, she actually vacated her room for me, which was very embarrassing. And she was like, no. She insisted that I lived there in that room. And with all her medals hanging around me, was quite intimidating. And then I stayed there. I was eating all my meals there, talking and living with her family, knowing more about them, going and taking a walk in their fields and plucking vegetables and making those and eating those. All of that I've done with the family. And we were shooting right next door. From wherever they were staying, just the house next to theirs. We had put up our set and everything, and we were shooting there. So that whole experience was almost like an workshop extended into filmmaking. Apart from the 2-3 hours.
What did you learn from them, you know, if you were to distill it down?
I think that as cliche as it gets, everybody knows that by now, age is just a number. That is what I realized, because her outlook of viewing a lot of things, of how to approach things in life, didn't really match with that generation of sorts. If you say, okay, that generation needs to be a little more conventional, a little more old school. But the way she used to speak to me, or the way the kind of conversations she had, her viewpoints, didn't make me feel like I'm talking to someone who's, that time I think she was 85 plus. And when we were shooting, and it was quite a revelation of sorts for me to see that even at that point, even though she's hard of hearing, she's no more, she was hard of hearing at that time, and her effort in trying to sit and chat with me or to take me out and was pretty much like a young person's energy. I realized when she meant that age is just a number, she actually is living by that. I told my mom so many times after I stayed a few days with her that, Mom, you keep telling me अब उम्र हो गई है, अब मेरे को ये नहीं याद रहता, अब उम्र हो गई है, अब मुझसे ये नहीं होता. I'm like, this is, you just been like conning me, I think, because here is this old lady who's not making me look like that she's that old. And so I stopped taking all my mother's excuses after that. And whenever she says something, I just show her that woman's story and I tell her that, and then I'm like, I'm not buying this anymore from you.
So, just about sports, has it sort of really impacted your psyche? You love sports,
Yeah.
you wanted, you're very, very fit. You can hear the envy in my voice. But even to play these sports characters that you've played, in what way did it has it shifted anything in your psyche? Like you just shared this about age.
Yeah.
But
no, I think to show up is what I learned. Show up by the time that you'll win some, you'll lose some, and you come back. And then try again. This is what I learned with whatever little stint I have with sports. The fact that my better or not so better half is also a sports person is also kind of helpful in understanding that you just show up. You don't give up that easily. But the bad part about sports was that even though I was not an athlete, but in my alter ego was of an athlete, I'm fiercely competitive. Fiercely, and how? Like, I think most of my arguments with Matthias has been on court. So it's just, that's the not so good part about having that athletic mind, because you just want to win come what may. So I just hope that didn't happen. But the fact that no matter you lose, you brood over it, but you come back and show up and not give up that easily is what I learned from sports.
So, you've been speaking about Matthias being this kind of woman that knows your own mind, has your clarity, not willing to, like you said, the sheer torture of being a submissive woman came through right here on stage. What about Matthias attracted you as a life partner? What kind of man is he? You're looking...
No, I'm just trying to understand how do I do this without trying to make it... more about him than me, because that's what I hate about our industry. But anyway, it's a very curated gathering, so I would respect that. What I'll say is that what really attracted me about him was the fact that when I met him, which was 11 years back now, instantly it felt different because I felt like I met a man and not a boy. So that was a big difference that instantly hit me. I realized the difference at that point because of all the men I dated before. I realized what was different. So, and it slowly built over that. I mean, he reaffirmed the faith that he's someone very secure, matured, who has a life of his own, built by himself, very comfortable and secure about his life. He has his individual life, I have my individual life, and then we have a life together, and it doesn't overlap or take away from the other, anything away from the other. So the kind of security or sense of security I felt with him very early in my relationship made it clear that I'm going to have this going for the rest of my life. It was very quick, very simple. The respect that I got from him in a relationship, the sense of individuality that I felt after being with him, the fact that I never felt the baggage of a relationship when I was with him kind of was the biggest, these were the things that made me feel it's going to stay for a lifetime.
That's a really fantastic description of why someone should be with a man.
Thank you, thank you. Let's just hope he shouldn't see the clip of this.
I hope a lot of men in the room and elsewhere later will take notes on that, absolutely. But that again brings me to, this dynamic between men and women in the industry and elsewhere in the world as well, but definitely within the industry, is again something that you've actually risked speaking about, asking for parity, but not just pay parity, which is the obvious one. And people there actually may say that, women are paid less because the audience doesn't come to watch them as much. So I'd love to know your response to that. But other than that, what is the texture of the industry? I mean, not on screen, but within the industry, what is it that you're chaffing against? What is different for the male actors and, say, the female actors? And has it changed in these 10 years?
It definitely has changed in front of me. As an audience itself, I can see that you can when I started off, I actually have gone on record and said, when they asked me, where do you see yourself 10 years from now, I've gone on record and said, probably settled in some other country and, you know, have a family there and live a life of my own. But here I am, 13, 14 years in the industry, still here, which I never thought will happen. It kind of changed in front of me with films like, you know, for me, the biggest changing moment was when I saw Vidya in Kahani and Dirty Picture. That kind of changed the whole look, that you don't have to conventionally look like, you know, your big glam heroine, and you can still have these kind of parts, films shouldered on you, and you have successful commercial films in your filmography which can help you sustain or be a part of this industry for longer. That was a big change I witnessed, and which is still standing the test of time. Yes, it is very different when you compare it with a man. We don't get paid even half, it's less than half, it's almost like 10% maybe of the male salary, which is very, but you know, if you ask me, it's a cycle. You cannot blame the industry, and because I'm a producer now, I can understand a lot of things. You can only pay how much you make as a producer. I cannot shell out more money than budget of a film, or how much I'm getting, the funds I'm getting from the studio for a particular film. And because the audience don't really go to watch films that are driven by females compared to the kind of films that they go for when it's a male hero, there's a obvious big difference. In fact, the footfall wise also, 70% of footfall in theaters is male. You know what, but the strange part is, and I see, okay, 70% males are going there to watch men as hero on screen. And 30% of, so I'm like, okay, they want these these heroines and all of that. These 30% women, I'm like, okay, they're not interested in the female. They just want to ogle at these big biceps and these big, I'm like, yeah, so 70% of men, they only want to see themselves, like their gender as the hero is probably why, you know, they prefer walking in theater more for the men. But what about the females? I think ratio-wise, in our urban cities, it's not that one-sided a ratio. Why aren't women walking into theater? And if they are walking, why aren't they doing what those 70% of men are doing and trying to watch the films in which there are, you know, females are celebrated? So having said that, this is a clear maths where you don't walk into theater, we don't earn money, the film doesn't earn money, so the actress, the leading actor doesn't earn money. We are paid basis, or we should be ideally paid basis, the kind of audience pull that we have as a star actor. So your weekend or your opening figures will tell you if your salary is justified or no. But beyond that, the kind of perks you get on ground, like on ground means when your film is getting shot, shouldn't be different. That I definitely will be like, okay, there are films and there are projects where you'll see the male actor will get a bigger room than the female actor. The male actor will get more number of vanity vans, though I don't know why do they need more than one, but they do get more vanity vans. So there'll be a lot of these, their staff is more in number. The staff is paid more also. So all these things are not equal, which I don't understand as much as I understand the pay,
the fee,
the salary. That I understand. So these kind of things are not so fair. But strangely, you know, with me, the kind of films I do, men don't want to be, like the big stars don't want to be a part of those kind of films because they feel it's driven by me, so why should they be there? So I've had these clear no's from a lot of actors when the film has gone to them saying, yeah, but this picture to Taapsee ki hai, to hum kyun kare, types. So strangely, it doesn't happen the other way around. You take it to the biggest actress in the industry, you take it to a Deepika also, she'll be happy to do a part where there are less number of scenes in a big male film, never asking ke ye matlab meri to picture nahi hai, main kyun karoon, types. So it doesn't happen the other way around. But yeah, when I take my films where there are probably relatively less number of scenes, or it doesn't look like the male is the alpha, the men are not really comfortable doing those films.
we're going to run out of time, so just one or two last questions. There's actually someone in the audience, Nirupama Subramaniam, who's written this book called Powerful, where she looks at these archetypes that women, social archetypes that women have, So there's the Kanya, the Apsara, the Rishika, mother figure, Veera, and that we are all negotiating these different archetypes within us, and how much of it do you allow to express. So the Kanya is, you already were literally having an allergic reaction to being a Kanya. But if you look at
I'm very proud to be Kanya, but it's just that it's the definition we perceive is different from what the actual definition is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But if you were indeed to look at yourself through these archetypes, which ones do you think you most express yourself through?
I don't really understand the differences between the...
So there was this mother, the warrior, this maiden, the wise one, the knowledge seeker, etc.
I think the good or the bad or the crazy part about being a woman is that you are a different person every minute. When I'm standing here, I'm sitting here, I'm a different person. When I'll go back to my room, I'll be different. When I'm with my parents, I'm a different person. When I'm there on field acting or being the producer or being the actor, I'm a different person. So I feel the privilege of being a woman is you can be all of this or none of this at the same time. So I really don't feel that I can choose one aspect of this. Yeah, it's a multiple personality disorder of sorts to be a female.
That's a wonderful... I think we should end on that note. That's a beautiful description. So, the fact that you've had the courage to be a multiple disorder being, is a great boon to us because we've got some wonderful work from you and look forward to all the wonderful work that you're going to do. With Outsider Productions, just one last question, which I didn't ask you, which is, in the industry, who are the people that you feel close to as friends, who have a similar psyche? Let's start with the women,
I really have a good time when I sit and chat with Bhumi. I've worked with her, very intelligent girl. I've not, so whoever I've worked, Vidya I admire a lot. Like one of the main reasons for me to do Mission Mangal, apart from the fact that it was a real story, inspired from real story, was because Vidya was there in it. So I have wonderful equation with both of them. And then my other colleagues in terms of the people behind the camera. Kanika is a dear friend. She's the one who's written Man Marziyan and Haseen Dilruba. So off my head, I remember these. But I do form friends very easily with people I work with. I'm not very active in social groups in the industry, but when I work with people, I kind of form really long-lasting bond with them. So these are the women I've worked with, and I'm still in touch with them. Yeah, and very inspiring lives. All of them have had an influence on me in terms of, as a human being. So I would want to continue to have them in my life because I want these kind of women to constantly influence my life in the future.
So in salute of being multiple disordered, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
It was lovely talking to you.
Let's get back to the match, guys. Thank you so much.